welcome back to Sew What, a sewing conversational show with me, Stuart from the Woolpatch, and of course, Carol Elaine, Master Tailor Couturier. Hey, Carol.
Hey, Stuart. Love the new look.
Thank you. My Ralph Lauren look. I'm getting ready for tennis season or spring season.
Sure looks like it. All right.
It's so good to see you. This is going to be our last in the series because we're going to have a little bit of a break before the sewing bee starts again. And that's when those videos get manic. But it's so good to see you again because we saw you just before London Fashion Week.
That's right.
So how did it go? Tell us all about it.
Really well. Everything was down to the wire as normal. It's just how it works, isn't it? You know, everything expands to fill the time you have available. This was no different. We decided to throw in a few more pieces because we had a little bit of time, and then of course that ate up all the time. And then things unexpected. Oh, you know, like we did a dolman sleeve dress,
which got a lot of praise. The dolman sleeve. A
lot of praise. It really looked good, didn't it? But when the model was wearing it, we were trying it out. We saw that the pleat opened up and a little bit too much of the inside showed. So I had to make a deeper facing for that. Right. So, you know, it's always good to build things statically, but there's nothing like a live model.
Yes, of course.
To work with.
Yeah.
And so for today, I was thinking, I learned, you know, we've learned that lesson over and over and over again, but wouldn't it be nice to talk about models and mannequins?
And look at all those.
It's
your fan club. It's your fan club there. It's a really good thing to talk about. I have a mannequin here in the shop to show off display items. And I think there are quite a few home sewists who have mannequins too, but I've never seen. You've got a whole assortment there, so tell us all about them then.
Well, absolutely. So the assortment I have includes working mannequins. That means I use these for the product that I produce for people, and then some that are just display. So if I'm photographing something, you want to see it on an articulated model, like this one here. Articulated because it just shows off the garment a bit better. Not so good with bespoke because they're display, they're for shops, or they're for, you know, your visuals, your brand, your campaigns. But they're a little bit elongated. They're made to flatter clothes in a shop. And then I have a slightly, you know, if somebody brings in a larger dress, a taller dress, something with a train, you need to be able to see that in a bigger space on a bigger stand. So I have Madam there in the back with a more exotic frock on it.
She looks fabulous.
Yeah, she's wonderful. We love her. She's grand, very grand. But I would say that the one I rely on most is the Kennet and Linsel, and this has been around. I've been using this for 33 years, and I inherited it from the designer, and it has this collapsible shoulder, so it's easier to get garments on and off.
Oh, bring that closer. Let's have a look at that.
Yeah, so it's spring-loaded in there. This poor thing, it probably needs a reconditioning, which you can do. I can send this back to Kennet and Linsel, and they would recondition the whole thing. But this is a lovely feature because it's easy. It puts less stress on the garment when you're taking it on and off.
Yeah.
And then it also has a set of arms that fit on.
Yeah.
I don't use them very often because these particular arms don't have a good shoulder cap on it. They're just straighter, so it doesn't give you a good. Unlike this one here, you see that has a nice shoulder cap on it.
Yes, goes proper round like a shoulder would do.
Like a shoulders, exactly. So there's something in there. So you've got the bone in there.
Yeah.
So that's good. But this is my most trusted stand. And why do I like using this? Well, because you can pin into it, you know, so that's really important. Put a pin into it. So, and it's really good for the kind of work I like to do, which is more draping than flat pattern construction. I think I showed some of that in one of our previous chats. but you can just put your fabric on and manipulate it around and pleat it and gather it. And it helps if you can use a pin. Do you need a mannequin? You know, how do you know you need a mannequin? Well, if you're doing your day-to-day sewing, maybe you don't. But if you're sewing professionally, yeah, you have to. It's you can't get around, you know, working without one. It's hard to get one in the right size. So this is a 12. This is an 8, so kind of a 10. This is a 10 here. This mannequin is Siegel and Stockman, very famous brand. It's a bit harder to pin. It's a fiberglass construction, so it's a bit harder to get a pin in. You have to kind of pin just the canvas. A really easy and a really cheap way to start out, and I use this with my students, this is just a styrofoam mannequin.
Yeah, I've got one. That's like my one.
You got one of those? Yeah, so and it's got this cover that slips over it. And this is really easy. You can sink a whole pin right into it. Can you see that?
Yeah.
You know, put the whole pin right in. The downside of this one is it's a little bit wobbly.
Yeah.
So, and that's not so good. Where the Kennett and Linsell is on wheels. So that's nice because you can, you know, that slips around and you can turn it. If you're, let's say you're just working on it, you can just turn it to see how easy that is.
You want that, accessibility. It's all down to a cost as well, isn't it? Really, the styrofoam, the polystyrene ones are going to be way more affordable, aren't they?
Way more. It's a good place to start. If you think, well, do I need a mannequin? You can start with the styrofoam job, and I think this cover comes off and that's washable. That's a bonus. It's not very sturdy, but you can get this one and then you can pad it to your size. And then you can see how accurate you can come to making your own garments and getting them close to your size and padding that. Yeah, go ahead.
When you say making it adjustable to your own size, I've seen ones on in certain sewing shops. I think they're called adjuster forms. They are mannequins, but I think the brand might even be called adjuster form, and they have lots of places to screw or twist.
Yes,
because they then the form adjusts. The waist comes out. So I suppose the home sewer, if they're making garments for themselves, they would adjust the mannequin to suit their size, their hip to size, their chest to size. I don't know what they're like though. Have you had any experience of those?
I have. So they're generally split down the middle.
That's right.
And then there's a little rotary adjuster at the bust, at the waist, and at the hips.
Yeah.
And the whole thing starts to expand. It's harder to get those in proportion. You can get close, but I always found them very, unsuccessful for me, because when you dial, say, a larger bust size, this portion expands as well.
Of course.
So you get a bigger neck.
Yeah.
You get, and then the shoulder isn't crisp anymore.
Yeah.
That starts to come out, and I found I got into a lot of trouble with those. It was the rage when I was learning, many moons ago, but I just thought this is not in proportion, and you can really get into trouble with having too big of a neck, and then when you go to try that garment on, it's just miles too big. So that's one of the dangers.
So rather than perhaps buying an adjuster form, can you get a normal mannequin like that and then pad that out, adjust that to your size? Absolutely.
That's right. So you can use quilt batting, or you can use some light foam, and you can wrap it around until the girth equals your girth.
Yeah.
And you can use things to imitate a butt. You could put a bra cup on there, to just increase the size of the bust. You still keep the shape.
Yeah.
So rather than wrap things around that then just distort, flatten out the details, the curves. You can just impose other shapes on top, and then slowly build it up. That's really successful. That works.
And that would be, then I can see how important that would be if you are making a lot of clothes for yourself. and
Yes.
and also like me with my gingham shirt that I haven't got any further with.
Oh, well
So
done.
I've
Means
done
you're
well.
busy with other things, huh?
But I've recut out and done. I think I showed this last week. There's my new left front and my new right front.
Mhm.
If I had a mannequin, I technically,
Uh,
rather than having them scrunched up, I'd have
mhm.
them nicely pinned to my mannequin now, wouldn't I?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're protecting it. And also it's nice to see your progress, isn't it? Rather than folding it all up and having it in the corner.
Yeah.
And that brings me to another point, because in the back, I don't know if you can see in the back, I've got a little row of garments here in the back.
Oh
Well,
yes.
yeah. So
Beautiful.
that's another project in process, but you can hang something up and it's on a flat hanger. But if that was a bias cut jersey dress, you've got to have the right hanger. Otherwise, it's going to hang and it's going to poke the ends of the
It's in the
hanger
wrong
are
place.
going to
Yeah.
poke in.
Yeah.
So if you're not really storing it correctly as you're building it, it's much better to store it on a mannequin, because all the pressure is taken off.
Yeah.
It's not just hanging from a few bits of metal. It's distributed, and particularly if you're making a bridal gown or something like that, the stage garment, you can't just hang that up, because it's going to start to stretch. It's heavy, and let's say you're working on a bias cut garment,
Right.
bias cut skirt. It's really good idea to just put it on a mannequin, walk away for a day or two, let it stretch, let those bias points stretch out, and then, because it's on a mannequin and hopefully it's in reasonable proportion, then you can hem it, because the floor isn't going to move, is it?
No.
So you can hem from the floor up, so
Yeah.
you know that your hem is going to be even after it's stretched and
And
it's
kind of
settled.
settled into its position.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
So it's, and if you like to drape, it's really good. If you want to store your garments, it's very handy. Or if you have a real virtuoso piece that you just don't want to hide in a closet, it's
yeah.
nice to have it.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
nice to have it out. A
Absolutely.
lot of, yeah. I know several people who have, say they have a really important designer garment that they've gotten hold of, or they've bought vintage or something, and it's just a piece of art to them. So
So
it's a
have it
nice,
out on the mannequin rather than it
yeah,
being stuck away in the cupboard. Yeah.
exactly.
And when you look at that, you look at that view now behind you. The sun, now we're out
Yeah.
in the light at 5 o'clock, is beautifully coming through that. The blinds, the shadow on the back wall, and then you've got these beautiful mannequins all in
Yeah.
clothes and looking fab. I mean, look at Purple Lady at the back there.
I
That's
know.
look.
That's
Can you wiggle her forward? Is that one you can show, or is that a
sure.
top secret one?
No top secret here. I don't know who the maker of the dress is, I can tell you, but as I said, it's got a very uneven hemline. So you can see it's got that handkerchief hem.
Yes.
You see, if I hold it upside down, you can see
Oh,
it's
Carol, look
how
at
it
that.
just falls. And this is a dress we're going to restyle. So it's got a beautiful combination.
Oh, look at the movement on that.
Yeah, skater's waltz. It's got chiffon, silk satin. So here's the satin on the cuff.
Wow. On the cuff.
The chiffon is the diaphanous. Can you see that?
Yes, beautiful.
See that through? And then it's got this collar, very 70s collar with a mitered lace collar. And that's set in the silk satin. And then we've got some voré, so a slightly burnt pattern.
Look
Can you
at
see that?
Absolutely. Ah.
And then the lovely bib, which has got some white lace, and again a mitered section here. And I want to make the dress a bit larger. So instead of it, this panel would go all the way over to the other side. And I'm going, there's enough fabric here actually. So it's not dangerous, you know?
No, you've got plenty.
Got plenty there. And then so it's just, the question is just working out how to manage this, because I want to see the whole of the bib. It might be that we just center that and just let that go.
Why not? She would look stunning walking.
Yeah, she looks stunning. And isn't that dazzling for spring?
And what I can say, walking through an Italian town centre.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The gelato.
Wait, let's go. Let's go.
Or on the beach. It's got to be on the beach with a little clutch bag.
Bring it on.
Everyone looking. Oh, it's
carrying the sandals on the beach, of course. But it's nicely done, and there's a lot of interest in it. So
and the movement in that, even when you just move that cloth, it just wiggles and moves and flourishes.
It loves this cloth loves being on the bias.
Yeah.
And it's so soft to the touch. It's lovely to work with. But I'm going to put, because it's see-through and we're losing wrap. Yeah. I'm going to make an underslip, and I'm going to find this shade of purple.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an underslip. The waistline of the underslip is going to be an elasticated lace, and I've got to source that too. I've got to find a color coordinated stretch lace to go over the cupra lining. Cupra because it's non-static, and we're dealing with silk, so we don't want 2 layers of silk together.
Okay.
Because it just creates static and heat.
Oh, didn't know that.
So we want a nice cupra lining, which is viscose based. It's got a lovely cool temperature about it, so it's going to be nice and compatible. And then, so we'll have an underslip. We'll have to contend with this white section. Don't want purple behind that, but I could also line this with white and then just make a waist-high slip. And then the only thing that would be see-through would be this panel here, but that my client's not bothered about that.
I think that would look wonderfully.
Doesn't mind, yeah.
Sexual. I think that would just be exquisite.
Absolutely. And I think now underwear is part of an ensemble. You know, it used to be that it was all covered up, but now it's, you know, it's just another layer. It's like, never mind the t-shirt. You see a lot of lacy camisoles and things underneath blazers. So it's she's not bothered. I'm not bothered.
Yeah, indeed. She's got a gelato in her hand. She's not bothered.
And it doesn't matter what
but you're right. It looks so good on the mannequin, and you can see how it sits, you can see how it moves, and as a couturier, that it's one of the most crucial things in your toolbox, as it were, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you know, when 2 years we've been trying to come out of this lockdown, haven't we? We're, thank goodness, the restrictions have been more or less eliminated, and we hope that we can now live with it. But when the lockdowns first came about, I didn't know how I was going to be in business when I couldn't be client facing. So I started to do a lot of restyling. We talked about this, and I can't believe how it's taken off.
Oh, wow.
So now people are finding garments that they didn't think they could wear, but they had to buy it because they love this color, and they couldn't. This fabric bought them. You know? It purchased them, and so now what do they do with it? You know.
Brilliant. But we were talking about this before, wasn't it? It's great that they're not chucking it away and buying more. They love it, so they want to keep it because they love it, and get it adjusted so they can keep loving it and wearing it.
Yes, and there's a reason why things catch your eye and you can't live without them. You know, clothes and paintings and all sorts of things, books. But and now you can. I'd like to think that now my clients can say, I don't need to be forced into being tempted by things. I'll just wait. I'll just wait till something really good catches my eye. It may not be perfect for me, but now I know what I can do with it. I can go have it restyled, and I can, you know, make it my own, which is really nice. I think that's why we sew and knit and build our own garments, is because we have something which, you know, got our thumbprint on it. And
It's a very interesting conversation actually, because with me on my vlogs, I've been asking people to go into their stash, and fabric people and knitting people have a huge stash, because you go to a shop, you buy 3 meters of a fabric that you fall in love with, or you buy 2 hanks of wool that you fall in love with. It's very easy to do that, especially if you're on holiday or over the years. And of course, the act of making is a lot longer, so your stash builds up quicker, doesn't it,
yes.
than that we
Oh,
make.
gosh.
And I
Yeah.
and I often, I was saying on the vlog, go on, just go into that stash. Don't buy some new stuff, because
Yeah.
ultimately you bought that fabric, that 3 meters, because you fell in love with it. So try and use it. And some people are like, oh, but it's so nice. I don't know what pattern to use. And I'm like, you'll probably
Oh,
never find the right pattern because you're too worried about it. But at
yeah.
least make something and try and enjoy that fabric even more. Let it free so you can see it.
Well, that's so true. You shouldn't be afraid, because where you bought that fabric, there will be more fabric. So go ahead, jump in, make a mistake, you can
Yeah.
correct it. I'm always surprised when I go looking for something like for someone else. I think, oh, so and so wants X. I think I have some fabric in store, and I go in the store and I find stuff that I bought 20, 30 years ago
Oh,
I didn't even know I owned. It's like,
oh my word,
why is
Carol.
why is this sitting here with,
Yeah,
not getting the attention it needs? So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
get it out. You'll surprise yourself when you go and look in your
Yeah.
store. You
And
will.
I know it must be hard, especially if you've got an exquisite piece of fabric that you probably was a designer fabric, and you spent a lot of money on it. So you're even more nervous to cut it up, but it's got to be there to be cut up and used, doesn't it? Get it out and make a garment out of it. Otherwise, it's going to sit on that shelf in the stash for another 5 years, isn't it?
At least, maybe even more. Here in London, we have this terrific department store, Liberty. And Liberty, when I first relocated to London, had a beautiful dressmaking department. So did Dickens and Jones, all these lovely department stores.
Ooh.
You could walk in and there'd just be bolts and bolts of cloth. And you'd often meet people in there, singers and dancers and television personalities, because a lot of these women did their own sewing, and men. And so I started to hoard cloth, like you say, you saw it, you liked it, don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to buy it. Now, in those days, fabric might have been 10, 15 pounds a meter, right? Remember those days? Decades have passed. I go back into that stash and I think, this is crepe de chine with a 12 degree print on it. I'm never going to find anything like this.
Yeah.
If I sew it up now it looks really expensive, because you can't get that kind of cloth, or the quality of that cloth. The Mannequins, the crepe de chines, these beautiful prints with many silk screens, real depth of print. And it is amazing. And because of the replacement value is so high, I just think, what a good investment, which I didn't think at the time, because when things cost £5-10 a meter, and they were on sale, they had gorgeous sales at Liberty's every year. I used to just get some treasures.
Yeah.
Now, all the fabric stores are shut. In London, in Soho, most of our shops are gone.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
So there is 5 or 6 sister shops that used to be in Soho have now got a warehouse in Wembley.
Cheaper.
So in order, so
way
in order
cheaper
to go,
for them, won't it? A warehouse
it
is
would
probably going to be way
cheaper.
cheaper than a shop building in the middle of Soho. The rent on that shop in Soho must have been astronomical.
Rents and rates and the utilities and the wages for people that had to live in London. So that was, I realize now what a luxury that was, to just walk into central London, and I could walk out having visited 10 fabric stores, easy. Do the whole circuit, see the full choice, everything that's available, and then go back to that one after a light lunch, go back and get what you wanted. Now, internet
different,
and all that. So what do our contestants on the sewing bee going to do? Because they have to source everything, don't they?
It's going to be very interesting, and we're going to get very excited about that because that will be starting again in April. So we're going to have a little bit of a break, aren't we, over March? I think last year it was end of April, beginning of May. So we'll see if they're going to release it then. But yes, and it would have been filmed last September, October. So they were able to go out. So they might have gone to shops and bought fabric and seen fabric and felt fabric. So hopefully it will be interesting to see, yes, different, well, hopefully it should be better for them, shouldn't it, this season?
I think you're right, because before it was in lockdown, wasn't it? Okay, so although this was just before, was it the second or the third lockdown? We were talking about last November, by then a lot of the shops had packed in, and closed. So it'll be interesting. I wonder if they'll talk about that.
Yes.
If they'll talk about what kind of a trial it was to get fabric, and if they relied on the internet and samples, or if they were able to go out and shop and touch and feel and make selections.
Well,
hopefully
we shall see. Well, it's been a wonderful journey. What do you think? We started from January just talking about fabrics, and now we've sort of ended up talking about mannequins and the full garment, and seeing your journey as well with you and Laura's. It is Laura, isn't it?
It is Laura, yes.
Laura's work and everything, and seeing you sort of go up to a finished garment at Fashion Week. It's been a wonderful series. I've really enjoyed it.
It really has. I think we've touched on a lot of things, and as always, I'm just really enjoying the comments, and people are engaging, and they like listening, and they like hearing the chat, and it's nice, and for what is a very solitary business, it's nice to get out from behind the machine and have a chat.
And we can see that in the comments when people are saying, I've made this, I've made that. Teddy, who makes loads of dresses, but on the miniature for his dolls, and it's exquisite what he's making. And you're right, we're on our own at the sewing machine. So if we're on our own, they've been having us on in the background listening, because they don't necessarily need to watch, because it's more conversational, isn't it? And some people have been watching and seeing, and they've loved it, because there aren't that many type of shows, not on mainstream telly and even on YouTube, where you get to speak or listen to someone talk about sewing with the wealth of experience that we've got with you as well. So it does make a difference for sure. I'm thrilled with the amount of people who keep coming back each week to listen and who enjoy it.
So am I. And even people we've met on the show starting to comment and starting to be a part of this, which is really nice. And I find it really interesting having the two disciplines, having the knitting and the sewing.
Absolutely.
And talk about the the crossovers, that things that we share. And we talked about this game of opposites, and top side and underside, and your knitting and why the underside causes it to roll. And I've always found that with fabric, but you explained it on a larger scale, right? With the stitches being bigger and the effect of that being more pronounced. So, I'm learning about my discipline from yours, which I think is really interesting. And it doesn't have to be controversial or car crashy, does it?
No.
And I think this is what's missing on the airwaves. It's really just helping and making a community. There's plenty of room, there's plenty of space for things like this. It's just nice to be here, Stuart.
Oh, well, and it's nice to be doing it, and thank you for all the time that you've given up. Because I know when we get to the sewing bee, it's 10 intensive weeks, isn't it?
I know.
I'm always appreciative of the time you give for that, because you do little tutorials in between too, according to whatever they've made. So I know that's going to be an intensive 10 weeks, but it's going to be it's such an enjoyable 10 weeks because it's more sewing to talk about, isn't it? And who's our favorite sewer, or whose talents do excite us, or what about that sewer attracts us to talk about them, and so forth. Yes, so I can't wait for that. Oh, and look,
that is amazing.
this is
That is
my finished quilt.
beautiful.
I've been doing that over the last couple of weeks. It's
Look at that.
It's
Well,
piece. Go on.
is that a specific pattern that
It
you've
is.
done?
It's a pattern that my friend has done. I'll put it all in the description.
Okay.
It was her first. She's a quilter. She's a long arm quilter. So
Oh yes.
she has this big machine where you lay it out and the machine can do it, or you can design it yourself, rather than me putting that through my sewing machine and trying to quilt it myself. So I pieced the top. So I've done all the patchwork, and then I put the wadding in and the backing, and then sent it off to my long armor to quilt.
Okay.
I don't know whether you can see it, but you can see it from the back better. Space.
Oh yes.
You see space rockets?
Yep.
Let's see if I can get it down. Can I get it down?
Careful, careful. Easy does it.
No, I think
That's okay.
well and truly jammed up there.
Yeah.
And it was a pattern that she designed, and I tested it. So she gave me the pattern, and I had a go at making it, and now it's all been tested, and she's released it. And it's great fun because it's made. This is a block, and you repeat that block 3, 6, 9, 12 times, and then you put your stashing in between.
Right.
And then a border.
I see. Okay. Oh, it's beautiful. I love the colors in it.
Well, it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah. When I first saw it, the first thing I noticed was the Lithuanian flag, the Ukrainian flag.
Oh yes.
That's the first thing. I mean,
yeah.
Anyway, I guess that image is now.
Well, so I finished a make, and then what with your finished makes too. It is a nice, as you say, it's a nice crossover between dressmaking, knitting, sewing, patchwork, quilting. It uses similar techniques, similar tools, and here we are all talking with similar interests. So it's been a fabulous 10 weeks. 10 weeks, that's how long it's been we've been doing this.
I can't believe it. But let's just keep going, because it's good for the soul. I always look forward to this, and I think, what am I going to talk about, tomorrow? Or sometimes I do some prep. This came to me last night. I thought, why not?
Yeah.
Mannequin. Let's get the ladies all lined up.
Oh, and they look. Have they got names? Have they got names?
No, they don't. No, none at all. No.
Well,
there's sizes.
But that's the whole point of our conversational sewing show, isn't it? We just talk about stuff to do with sewing in whatever respect.
Yeah, and I like going through the tools, because people don't think about the tools as much as they do the finished project.
Yeah.
If you're a knitter, where's the jumper? Where's the beanie? Where's the scarf?
Yeah.
But I saw on Amazon, I was surfing the other day, and I saw this beautiful presentation of needles and this amazing pack. Unzip it, unfold it, and inside is all the crochet hooks, all these needles and circular needles, and I thought, wow, you don't see that every day, do you?
No, I bet that cost an arm and a leg too. Well, it's been wonderful. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in and coming in each week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if you had a favorite part. Let us know for future ones. Maybe after the sewing bee, we can come back and we might be doing something else if there's something you want to do. Where we are, but it's been great. But we will be back with the sewing bee for sure. All Gathered Up is our offshoot show, isn't it, Carol? That's what we've called it.
That's right.
That's
our match of the day rebuttal.
Isn't it? Absolutely. And it went down so well. If you haven't seen those shows yet, then just search All Gathered Up in YouTube, and you'll see me and Carol each week talking about the show of the previous episode of the Sewing Bee, and talking about the contestants, what they've made, and there's normally a focus, some sort of focus about an issue that came up. Maybe it was buttonholes one week, or I think the waistcoat one, they made a waistcoat one week, didn't they? And you talked about how to do the tie and the buckle.
Yes, different kinds of buckles and how to set them up. Yes.
So it's a great offshoot show, because we get to talk about something that perhaps came up in the show, and also we get to critique in a really positive way as much as possible what the sewers made, and it went down really well. So we'll be doing it again this year, come April, May time, whenever it is.
Absolutely.
So in the meantime, rest well. Well done on London Week. And now you say that she's in Paris now, is she?
Yes, it's because it's Paris Fashion Week now, so she's there. And it's just getting her collection in front of as many people as possible, because like a lot of startups, she's going to sell this herself online through Instagram and her own website, and, you know, not taking on that horrendous responsibility and financial burden of renting a shop. So she's going to do it all by herself. And but she's got a lot of people behind her. And just in closing, I went and I scouted out some factories a couple of weeks ago, because I'm determined to find out if we can still manufacture in the UK. I know we can, and I met some lovely factories, but one of them said to me, there's been more startups this last year in lockdown than she can remember. And I think that's great, as people are, you know, they're reflecting, they're deciding, you know, what do I really want to do? There's a lot of soul searching during the pandemic. And so there's a lot of people out there wanting to do things differently, wanting to offer lines of clothing that are sustainable, that are produced with local materials. And we want to see if we can find a way to keep the factories buoyant.
Yeah.
I hope we can do that.
And I think people are prepared to pay more for that, because they know, especially if they can see that it's come from that factory and it has come from there, or it's that local, that is I pay for that, and I think many people will.
So would I. And the people that are in the process, that are taking on this responsibility, are much happier if their production facilities down the road.
Yes, than
not across,
on the other side of the world.
The logistics and the cost and all the problems that we have now that we're no longer in the EU.
Yeah.
There's all that compounds everything. So I think it's not a major commitment, but it's a smaller mission. I'd like to see some of our factories that are well set up for fashion to produce for the UK in the UK.
Oh, well, how exciting knowing that there's many people out there doing like what Laura's doing, starting up and seeing where it goes. So, even better than what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Thank you, everyone, as we say, for watching. Let us know in your comments what you're making at the moment, and we will see you when we come back with the Sewing Bee All Gathered Up show. See you all soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.